Welcome to Telling the Tale. I'm your host, Mitchell Farley Wolf. This is the podcast where we go through every single one of the released Telltale episodic narrative video games. And I'm, of course, and as always, joined by Dustin Jackson. Hey, Dustin.
Hello, Mitchell. I'm the masked vigilante here to stamp out the crime of playing every Telltale game ever made.
Ooh, okay, and mine is like ice powers.
Yeah, you know what? That's good. That's a good one. I should have gone with that.
So between the two of us, we can, I think, cover a lot of ground.
Yeah, you know what? I'll be the guy who wears the mask and you'll have the ice, and we can like knock out anything. Yeah,
I love how some superheroes are really like Moon Knight, right? Do you know about Moon Knight at all?
Not like a ton. I'm not really a superhero guy, so we're off to a good start with this episode.
Moon Knight is a Marvel guy, and his whole thing is that he's been blessed by powers from like an ancient Egyptian god, or hasn't. And because he's got a bevy, not just one, but a bevy of various mental health issues that prohibit him from seeing reality correctly. He doesn't even know himself if that's real, but he seems to be doing superhero stuff regardless. And, you know, using all of that stuff, he leans into a lot of interesting things to say about the human psyche and mental health and the concept of consciousness in general. And then like the Human Torch is a guy that is fire.
That's true. He can like be fire.
Yeah. So there's a lot of range within the world of superheroes, and no superhero is more range in himself along that spectrum than Batman, the Batted Man.
The Dirk Batman.
Dirk Batman and his Telltale series, Episode 1, Realm of Shadows, was released on August 2nd, 2016. Written by, and I've got a lot of names here, Zach Keller, Patrick Kevin Day, Shannon Ingalls, Nicole Martinez, and James Windler. Directed by Kent Muddle, and
we've heard that name,
We've
right?
heard a good amount of these names. And designed by Chris Hockabout, Mark Darren, Emily Garrison, Michael Kirkbride, and Luke Maulding.
That's a good assortment of names you just said.
Yeah, and we recognize Mark Darren. We recognize Chris Hockabout. Michael Kirkbride for sure.
Hockabout is such a good name.
Hockabout, yeah, it continues to be great. We still love it. Top of the episode, I ask you. Top of the episode. You like it?
I liked it. Here's my thing. I said before that I am not a super huge superhero guy. And that's true, but that doesn't mean I don't like any of them. I've dabbled in a Batman or two in my day. And I like that this is well, one thing I like about Batman in general is you can do so many different takes, like even if they're pretty close to one another. Like even this Telltale one, it's so far anyway, you're not getting anything that doesn't feel like Batman, but it's still Telltale's Batman. Mm-hmm. Like there's some different takes on characters, even if they're not like wildly crazy out the window. But yeah, I just like seeing different ways characters can be reinterpreted, and yeah, I like Batman. I like Telltale's Batman. I thought this episode, it's like a pinch on the dry side, but there's some very cool stuff in it too. Like it's not like Tales from the Borderlands where it's just this crazy fucking explosion of style and crazy shit going on. It's pretty low key.
Yeah.
But I think they do some cool stuff with that. Like there's a lot of it's not just beating up criminals. There's like actual detective work in it that I thought was really cool, since you don't get that super often with Batman video games.
I think especially coming right off of CSI, the way this detective work shook out was so relieving and
Yeah.
fresh and really clever in general. We'll talk more about it.
Yeah. Mhm.
There's this is probably the most, and it really only comes up a few times, but it feels like the most gameplay driven of the Walking Dead style Telltale games. It's definitely
Yeah.
still a choose your own adventure kind of watchable game experience.
Right.
But there's a couple
But
moments where you have to do some detective-ish detective work.
yeah, I like that. I thought it was neat.
Yeah. Especially because of all the Batman stuff that we've gotten in the last 40 years, the fact that he is a detective very uncommonly brought up.
Yeah. It's they even start this game out by bringing up the old Detective Comics.
Yeah, they do. They have a cool. I think Marvel's kind of trivialized this style of intro now, where it's the
Right.
collage of comics that condense into a logo. But for 2016, no, never mind. They were definitely doing it already. I was
Right, but
gonna give them some benefit of early timing, but it was not early.
Right. I just like that it kind of ties into, oh, this isn't just going to be a straightforward beat 'em up Batman action game. You're doing some actual detective stuff in here. And not just that, but a lot more focus on the Bruce Wayne side of the coin. Of Batman is still a huge presence, but
Mm-hmm.
and forgive me if I'm wrong, I've played barely any other Batman games. I haven't even played those Arkham ones. But it feels like that side of Batman does not come up very often in Batman video games.
Yeah, in the Arkham games, I think there's moments where you can Bruce out for a moment, but it's definitely more Batman oriented. You're flying through streets and you're pummeling gangsters in suit.
I really hope I get to just Bruce out.
I think I really want to Bruce out.
I'm looking forward to really Brucing out.
I think I was struck by, and this might be a combination of factors here. This might be the fact that we just played CSI, and before that we played Game of Thrones, which is not very long before this game came out, only a year and a half or so.
Right.
If that. But Game of Thrones has been untouched that whole time, didn't get any kind of remaster. I'm playing the Shadows edition of Batman, the Telltale series, by the way. We'll talk more about what that means. But
Right.
this looked really, really high-end to me. The most a Telltale game ever has.
Nice.
By a lot.
Did that come out did it just come out with the Shadows edition, or was that an update?
Oh, no. Okay, yeah, let's talk about that then.
Okay.
So the Shadows edition is a change to the game. Okay, I don't know 100% if this is why this happened, but when Neo Telltale formed, so after the fall of Telltale, they got the license for Batman the Telltale series again, and they reissued both seasons as Shadow Edition, so
Okay.
they can sell it.
Right. Okay.
It might not have been required for them to sell it. They possibly could have just sold the old version. I don't know. But when it came back to market, because everything was down for a little while, and then half the stuff was brought back up later. This is one of the games, by the way, folks at home, that you can just go out and buy on anything. I think it's even on Switch. It's just on all the consoles. Right. So the Shadows Edition is a product of Neo Telltale. Actually, it might be their first product.
That sounds right.
It might currently be their only product, actually. I mean, they're selling the old games, but this is the first thing that was developed newly under their wing.
Right. That's interesting that you say it looks very high end, because I'm playing it on just the regular classic mode,
Mm-hmm.
and I gotta say it doesn't look bad. It looks like good. It looks fine, but there's like certain parts where I'm like, oh, that's weird, and I think it's the way things are shaded. Do you remember when they're talking to the two old people at the party
Though,
at the
okay, I
beginning?
actually did make a mental note of that. Those old people looked pretty crusty.
Yeah, okay, so they did in the Shadows edition too.
Yeah, but to me, they felt like an aberration. Like the rest of the game didn't look like that.
Yeah, it just kind of threw me off,
Yeah,
especially since you see them so early. But like
I think that's fair.
the weird shading on them, on like their mouths and stuff. I was like, whoa, when did this game come out in 2008? But no, the rest of the game looks fine. That sounded very mean coming out of my mouth, but the rest of the game looked totally fine and good.
So, if you've been following our Walking Dead episodes, you might be familiar with us talking about graphic black. This is a similar kind of thing where it's a change to like the overall shaders affecting everything in the game, to look a little bit more comic booky. But
Yeah, and
graphic black is to make it look more comic booky. This does not look more comic booky. Uh,
yeah,
this is a noir movie now with shadows. It's black and white.
yeah. So we've already gone into our feelings on graphic black on Walking Dead. I personally feel like it does a little more harm than good, at least with these earlier seasons.
Same.
But with this is like a whole different look. To me, this isn't like ruining what's there. It's just like a different flavor. And I think that is like, I didn't play it on it, but I've seen video, I've seen screenshots. And I do think it's cool to have that choice to just go with whatever style you prefer.
Yeah, so
Because it's just so radically different. With Walking Dead, it just feels like you are just dropping like a weird shader on top and just kind of ruining some stuff. Here, it's just like a totally different look.
it's very it's very, very stylish and purposeful. It seems very purposeful.
Yeah.
There are a few colors in the game. I actually wrote down all instances of colors, which is a small enough list that I'll just go through it really quick. Blood
Okay.
is bright red. So, you'll have like a very dark environment where everything is just black and white, and then Batman will punch someone in the face and the bright red blood will come out, and it looks very striking.
Right.
Feels a little bit when that happens like Mad World, the Wii game.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. All lights illuminate the color that they are. So like there's an
Ooh.
exit sign in some buildings with like neon green lettering for the word
Interesting.
exit, and that exit will be green. But everything around it is black and white.
Do you think that that's a good choice? Because when you say that, to me, it sounds like something that could go either way. I'd have to see it for myself. But you think that works?
Yeah, so the risk that you run when you do black and white, but some things aren't, is that every single thing that isn't is going to draw your attention a lot. And with
Right.
blood and a couple of the other things I'm going to talk about, yeah, I mean that makes sense. That's a
Yeah.
striking thing to exist in the scene, so it should be very attention grabbing. With like the exit sign, yeah, it kind of doesn't. You don't need that to be that distracting. I have a cynical, pessimistic kind of theory, which is that the way the game was developed, those neon lights in the world were kind of like separate from the regular lighting engine of everything else. They were producing their own light. So
Okay.
when they made, this is just a theory, it's just speculation, when they made the Shadows version, they kind of did like a universal applier to everything in the game, but like it couldn't touch light producers themselves.
Right.
That's my theory.
I could see that.
Because otherwise, like, yeah, I don't know why you would just have like neon street lights. Although I think it looks very cool, but from like a game design perspective, yeah, I don't need to know what that exit sign is, especially because that was not a place that I was actually exploring. It was just sort of in like a narrative scene.
Right, you never need to know where the exit is.
Yeah,
Usually.
I didn't have the option to use it. So
Well, as long as it looks good, I feel like that's all that really matters. Just because I've seen how easily you can ruin it with the Walking Dead one.
sure.
So, like, I know I'm probably not gonna need to use that exit door, but as long as it doesn't distract from the rest of the scene.
Two, three high. There's only three more instances of color, and they are significant. Oswald's tie.
Ooh,
It's bright yellow.
interesting.
Don't know. I don't know what that means.
I didn't even notice his tie was yellow.
I had to.
You were forced to know. You know that more than most of the episode.
And he only wore it at the party at the beginning of the episode. You see him again later in the episode. He's not wearing the tie, and he doesn't have any kind of color flair in that same way.
Right.
And then every instance of bat tech. At the beginning of the game, there's a very, I think, kind of silly customization option, personally. But I love it. I love when you get silly customization options like this.
Yeah,
that weirdly don't matter.
Yeah, just something just for fun to be like, hey, what color do you want it to be? What color did you go with, Mitchell?
Yeah, so you turn on like the lights in the bat suit or the bat computer or the bat cave, just like any instance of Wayne tech or bat tech glows whatever color you choose. You're given the options of blue, red, yellow, and purple. And I chose red. I thought it would be cool with the black and white, and then just splashes of red in there.
That makes sense.
I thought that would look striking, and it did.
Awesome.
What did you choose?
So I almost went with yellow just because I associate Batman with like black and yellow.
Oh, okay, yeah. Like an older, like the Tim Burton kind of
Yeah.
Batman.
Exactly. But I decided to go with blue just because I felt like it was a little nicer on the eyes. Like they had a lot of yellow on yellow if I chose the yellow. So I was like, I feel like that could get a little old. So I went with the blue, and it does look nice. I think it works.
I was tempted to go with blue because it affects computer screens. And I think just those the holographic computer screens in the Batcave do look best in blue. Yeah,
that's probably part of why I picked it as well.
I also remember the first time I played this, and I have played the first 3 episodes of this at the time this came out. I remember I picked purple, so I just didn't do that just to see a different thing.
Purple's an interesting choice. That's not necessarily a color I associate with Batman like ever.
It was cool though. Like on the bat suit itself, it looks cool when your eyes glow purple or when you've got like purple accents coming out.
Right.
But in the black and white, I think purple's a little dull, so you want a brighter color,
right?
To represent that.
Yeah, I think for what you're doing, red was the right choice.
So the only other thing that was colored in the Shadows version, and it is colored the color based on your bat tech, but I'm separating this because it's significant enough. The car.
You
Bruce's
mean when
car.
it's oh, that's no because blah, 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 sorry. No, because it was red for me as well.
Oh, okay. I thought that was because I chose red.
No, I think it's just a red car.
Okay, it's just a red car when it's Bruce's car, but it is the Batmobile, and it chameleon-like changes into a dark car as like the jets come out, and Optimus Prime's a little bit into the Batmobile.
I thought that was cool. Like I haven't seen every Batman thing out there. In fact, I've seen very few, but I don't think I've seen that like exactly that done before.
So what I'll say is just this version of Batman, this tone feels very grounded in the Christopher Nolan movies. Batman Begins, Dark Knight, Dark Knight Returns, or Dark Knight
Right.
Rises is the name of that movie. No, I always say Returns. That's not what it's called. And between those three movies, like that's what the base game felt like a lot. But this color filter, I think, does a huge amount in making it feel like its own, like Citizen Kane era black and white noir movie.
Right. Yeah,
as well.
That's cool.
It's really cool. Yeah, I'm going to continue playing in Shadows mode for at least this season. And I'm into it. I'm liking that a lot. The vibes are immaculate. It did freak me out when I exited the game and saw my bright sky blue computer screen background. Just for the first time in 2 hours, I saw color. That was
I don't remember
a big deal.
this. I don't remember life outside of this game.
Yeah, because my computer screen background, I should send it to you. You can.
Okay.
This is good pod because no one else is gonna see this.
This is gonna be great.
Yeah, you just have to imagine what this looked like after seeing a black and white image for 2 hours. I've just sent it to you.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's very bright, right?
That's a lot of blue.
Mm-hmm.
I won't elaborate on what the background is.
It's a picture of a dog in a lobster costume looking over the same picture of a dog in a lobster costume set against a cloudy sky. That is what it is. And it's bright, and it hurt my eyes. So that is one danger of the Shadows edition. But other than that, I like what they did a lot. It seems just very thoughtful. Whereas Graphic Black, like, the Shadows does not turn anything in the background into, like, only black.
Right.
Where Graphic Black takes a lot of the non-principal environment information and just coats it all in one solid color. And that was a lot to deal with. And I think minimized some of the work that the environmental artists put into the game. So
totally agreed. And I feel like some shots with it actually do look very nice, but I just feel like I don't know if the pros outweigh the cons necessarily.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are still some texture artists who worked at Telltale on the original game who look at the Shadows edition and they're like, dude, I worked so hard on those colors. But, you know, I think on the whole, this works for the game. Graphic Black worked against it.
Right. I agree with you. I went with the regular colors just because I wanted to just experience it normally. But if I ever replay it, and I might, I'll go with the Shadows.
That is a wild thing for you to say. You're going to replay a Telltale game?
Well, I mean, there's plenty
We've got
of Telltale
so many
games,
still.
so.
We've got
right. Well, I don't mean like anytime soon, but
okay,
I mean like in the future. If like I'll totally replay like all the Sam and Max games, all like Monkey Island, obviously, Tales from the Borderlands. If I end up liking this season, I'm sure I'll play it again.
Based on this one episode, how do you think it's up there with those other ones that you just said?
Not quite yet, but I did think it was very solid. Like I said, I felt like it was a little dry for my taste, but not to say they did it bad or anything. But it's just like it's starting you out a little slow, is what I imagine. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know. This is as far as I know for Batman the Telltale so far, but for what this episode was, I think they did a good job. They had interesting stuff in there.
Yeah, there's we'll get into the story proper, but there's a lot of things in this episode that hinted at some aspects of the Batman story that they were being taken more literal and more seriously than have been taken before. For example, in a lot of different Batman stories, and Dustin, I don't know if you've like seen all the movies or at least most, like over 50% of the movies, or what your experience is there. But in a lot of them, you've got Harvey Dent.
Right.
District Attorney Harvey Dent, who, if you know, he turns into Two-Face at some point in the lore.
Oh, I know.
He's clearly not Two-Face yet. But he's the district attorney already, and he's running for mayor in this game. And the things they do with Harvey Dent seem very grounded. Like, I don't know if he'll even be Two-Faced in this series. Maybe that's like, maybe I'm like being naive there, but it does seem like they're kind of just setting him up like he's here to be a politician because that story is interesting right now. And
Right.
I'm excited to see what they do there. That is cool for me. I think this is my favorite Telltale game we've played at least since Tales from the Borderlands, and has the potential to be higher for me, depending on how it goes.
I think I'm there too. It's hard for me to say because you've played more of this than I have, but just remembering what all we played since Tales.
Yeah, and I actually liked Game of Thrones, and I know you didn't, so there's some differing opinions there.
I think I have the potential to land there as well, but part of it just might be because even though I'm not like the world's biggest Batman fan, I like what I've seen. Well, I think Batman's like good usually, so like I have more of an interest in this than probably anything since Tales from the Borderlands, at least.
Yeah, because I know I was higher on Game of Thrones than you, and I think you were higher on The Wolf Among Us than me.
Right. I think I was also a little higher on Minecraft than you were. I think
probably. Probably a little.
I think we mainly had the main thoughts, but I think I maybe was a little more positive. But I think I would wager that I will probably end up liking this more than Minecraft.
What I would say about Minecraft is that I think the second half of the season, and I think we said as much when we were covering it, is if you consider it its own season, it would be one of the seasons I say is good.
Yeah,
and the first half is probably below that mark. And I wouldn't say that about it.
Yeah, I don't think the first half is like awful. I don't even think it's that bad. It's just not super interesting. But then they ramp up what makes it more interesting. But
yeah, and then like, similarly to me, I don't think the second half is like excellent either. It's not at the tier of The Walking Dead or Tales from the Borderlands. It's just like pretty good. And between, I think it's a very solid. They're probably very close. Where like the first half is among the better ones of the ones I didn't really gravitate toward, and then the second half is among the worst ones of the ones I did.
Wow, I guess that it's a compliment.
We play 140
I know what you
games.
mean.
To be the best one is actually going to be a huge achievement because it's a lot of games.
Yeah, that's a ton of them.
Have you ever thought about it in these terms? One of the episodes that we play, and we might have already played it, is going to be the best out of the 140 that we play.
The absolute best of the entire run of Telltale.
Yeah.
I couldn't even... I kind of have some inklings where I would land for that. Uh-huh. But who knows at the end of the day?
Yeah, there's a few that like immediately come to mind.
Yeah. I would say for me personally, I'd do like episode 2 of Sam and Max season 3, episode 5 of Tales of Monkey Island. It's hard for me to pick a single episode of The Walking Dead because I just think it works so well as just
I would say
narrative.
1 or 5 of The Walking Dead. And yeah, I was actually about to say episode 2 of season 3 of Sam and Max and episode 5 of Monkey Island as well. So
wow,
yeah, those are good. Episode 1 of Tales from the Borderlands was very good.
Agreed.
That might be it for me, actually, which is
episode
crazy.
1 of Tales. Yeah,
because
I wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah, in a lineup that has Sam and Max, Homestar Runner, Monkey Island. I pick a Borderlands game, like that's to just knowing the person that I am myself. That's wild.
It's crazy.
But it sold itself on me. That's a great
Yeah,
single episode. It's a great season, but I think of the season, the first is very solidly the best episode.
definitely.
Yeah. This episode is probably not within those, highest of echelons, but I do like it a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I had a good time with it.
A lot of good character establishment.
I'm really hoping that, and I'm not that worried about this, but since it's their own take on Batman, I'm hoping that we won't get caught in the same trap that like Game of Thrones did, where they just can't do like anything interesting with like any of the characters.
I'm sure that won't apply here. I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. It's totally its own Batman thing. They have free reign to do with them what they want.
I think Batman is interesting because it was created, I guess not on purpose, because it wasn't this way until like 20 years after the fact, but it was developed internally at DC with the intention to turn it into a real life myth, in the way that myths are repurposable and transfigurable and adaptable to any time period. This is a Batman that texts on the phone, but the story is still a like 1940s noir style of story.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's cool. I like that. And you have like all sorts of different takes on Batman. You have ones where he's in Japan. You have ones that skew closer to the Adam West era. It's It's very adaptable to just whatever you want to do with it.
Yeah, and I don't think it goes as far as like the he's in Japan scenario, because I don't think any of the details of this contradict any of the lore, but like where they go with their own direction. For example, and I think this is probably the biggest divergence, Oswald Cobblepot.
I was thinking exactly him.
Yeah, that's the Penguin. But in this game, he is the same age as Bruce Wayne, and they're both like younger than I usually see Bruce Wayne being. They're like early 30s, maybe.
Yeah, and
I think.
I don't know if they've ever done this in any other Batman story, but he and Oswald used to be very good friends. They used to be very close.
Maybe even young, like late 20s. They're young.
I think I read in the Codex, and it might have just been for Harvey Dent. I think it said like 25.
Whoa. Yeah, that's
so. Imagine being that at 25.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 28. So that's I could be Batman.
You could if you wanted.
All that's stopping me is a crazy high amount of money.
That is a big one.
Yeah, it is a big sum of money that I would need, but I could do it. Or I could just get like a slightly better apartment.
That's true.
That would be nice also.
Yeah, Batman should have considered getting a slightly nicer place.
I think he can't find one. I think he has the nicest house in the entire world.
Shit, I got the best one.
Yeah.
Now what? I'm stuck here.
I better punch thugs.
It'll take my mind off of having the best house ever made.
Yeah, I think they say at one point it's been 2 decades, 20 years since Oswald and Bruce have seen each other. And they used to know each other as grade school kids. So that would be like around 10 years old, or, between, I guess, anywhere between 5 and 18.
Yeah.
But somewhere between 5 and 18. Let's take the middle and call it 13. Add 20. That's 33 years old.
The picture of them together, they looked pretty young.
Yeah, it did seem grade school. Like, when people say grade school, I guess that can mean high school, because I have numbered grades, but I think of elementary school when people say that.
Yeah, I do too.
Is that like official? Is that what that phrase means? Is grade school just elementary school?
I would have. I don't. It's been so long since I've even had to talk about it, but I would think like grade school is like the first few grades, and then you have middle school, then high school.
Oh, okay. Google says grade school is defined in North America as a public school including either the first 6 or 8 grades.
Yeah, for me, it
So
was
that would be
1
like
through
elementary
6.
school, sometimes middle school.
Yeah.
Okay, so then let's say 10 was the last time they saw each other. Then 20 years, that's
Okay.
30.
I feel good about saying that.
But wait, but you saw 25? I guess that's just what it is then.
I might be misremembering.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I could believe that. So 25 to 30 is the range.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a young Batman. And
I guess
he
it makes
feels
sense
young.
because he's meeting like Selena Kyle for the first time. Harvey Dent isn't Two-Face yet. I can believe that this is like early on in the Batman story.
Yeah, and you have to wonder, like, is he ever going to have a Robin? Because there's no implications that he's had a Robin before. And,
Right, this is probably pre-Robin.
and he's finding the whole premise of the episode, to jump ahead a bit, is he's finding out from Falcone, who's always, like, in every Batman story, he's just the face of organized crime, like mob boss stuff in
Right.
Gotham. He finds out from Falcone that his parents did dealings with Falcone.
Oh,
Oh, a low blow.
the what a twist.
Yeah, I remembered this twist because I think the first time I played through this episode, that genuinely affected me. That was like it kind of takes a lot for Telltale story twists to get to me anymore, because I've seen a lot of them. Saying Thomas Wayne was an organized crime member, like a mafia member,
Right.
that felt bad.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I mean, I
But
like it.
I
in that
like it.
it's-
Yeah,
I
I like
like
it as
to
a
not
narrative
like it.
choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I was sad about it, especially because you find this out because Falcone has a photograph of what looks like the crime family of 35-ish years ago or something. In that picture is Alfred, same age as now. He did not age. Is Alfred, and Alfred has been like your buddy the whole episode, and now apparently he's been keeping things from you. He's been hiding things behind your back.
Come on, Alfred.
Come on, Alfred.
Come on.
Are you mad at Alfred? I'm mad at Alfred a little bit.
I don't know. I'm gonna wait and see. I wanna see if he has good reasons for it.
Yeah.
I'll hear him out. I'll hear the old man out.
I will say I'm about at the end of my memory of this game at this
You
one.
don't remember what
episode
happened
point.
in episodes 2 and 3?
I remember a set piece. I remember a specific
Okay.
thing. I won't say what it is, but I remember a set piece. I remember an action sequence. I remember a character twist not involving Bruce himself, but everything else, I'm gonna relearn, and I'm sure I'll be reminded as I go into it. But yeah, I think that's an interesting take for Thomas Wayne. I don't think I've seen that in too many other things, although there's a lot of Batman stuff I have not seen.
Yeah, same.
I haven't seen Gotham. I haven't seen the Robert Pattinson newest one. We were just talking about that before we got on the recording.
Yeah. I mean, most of my Batman experience comes from the animated ones. And even then, I haven't seen, like, all of them.
The animated series?
Yeah, like the original animated series. Well, there's
Yeah.
been, like, a ton of Batman cartoons.
But the one called Batman the Animated Series?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just considered one of, like, the greatest cartoons ever made.
You know, that might be the thing. That might be the Batman thing that feels the most like this. Like this,
I
and a
believe
little
it.
bit of Nolan DNA in there as well.
Yeah. I mean, those are two of the ones that a lot of people favor. Like,
Yeah.
those ones are usually considered very, very good.
Yeah, definitely. I think The Dark Knight is I'm not gonna surprise anyone by saying that it's probably my favorite Batman movie.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's just a really solid movie on its own without even being a Batman movie first and foremost. And then the animated series is, I think every year that goes on, more people come back to that and say like, Oh, that was actually really good. That was
Yeah. Um.
for being like a Saturday morning cartoon style cartoon. That was very, very good.
Yeah. My opinion on it is like I really don't consider myself someone to like go out of my way and watch a lot of superhero stuff.
Hmm.
Even now, I think of Batman the Animated Series, and I'm like, I don't know if I'd choose to watch that over like something that appeals to me more. But I totally recognize the quality of it.
This just in, Dustin prefers Ben 10 to Batman.
That's so untrue. You pick like the one cartoon that would be wrong about.
It does feel like Ben 10 is Batman-esque in the way, I don't know what I'm reaching for, but like some aspect of how they put the show together reaches for Batman the Animated Series without actually like doing any of it. Yeah.
Coming
That's
soon, Telltale's Ben 10.
whoa. I mean, if you don't want it, don't say it that loud.
Oh, sorry, I'll whisper it into your ear next time. One thing I do like, this is even before the game gets started, is I like the codex. I like how, because they're done a little differently than the past games. We've had them here and there with like, Wolf Among Us,
Yeah.
Game of Thrones had it. But here you get it from Bruce's point of view, Bruce's files writing down things about these people. And I feel like that kind of gives it a little more importance because you're getting how he feels about them. Like he's talking
Yeah.
about Harvey Dent. He's calling him a new friend. And I like seeing how... And they evolve throughout the game. Like, as you learn more about these characters, he adds more to their files. Like Oswald, he starts out saying like, "Oh yeah, we knew each other as kids," and then if you read it later, it says, "Oh, he's planning something. Oh, he's planning something."
Yeah, the Catwoman one I thought was interesting because in Game of Thrones you get like a codec at the very beginning for Lord Forrester, who is not a playable character, but that's like the freebie you get at the very beginning of the game without even launching an episode, just
Yeah,
to tell you like, hey, this is kind of a centerpiece character of what we'll be seeing in the story.
right.
And it lists stuff that you couldn't possibly know because you're outside of the story. But with the like the Catwoman codec in this one, it's written from Bruce Wayne's perspective. The player almost definitely knows who Selena Kyle is because that's just like a famous character.
Yeah,
But from Bruce's perspective, it's just written like, yeah, this is the cat burglar, and she's been seen robbing a few houses, keeping a pretty low profile altogether. Don't know much about her.
wears a cat costume.
Wears a cat costume, which is weird to do, I say, in the bat costume.
That's just strange.
That's just strange. Why didn't she pick a bat?
It would have been so obvious.
Yeah, so we got the cat, the bat, and the penguin in this episode.
That's a whole zoo.
Yeah, but okay, so the Catwoman is in the very beginning of this episode. Like, the intro set piece is there's a bunch of mercs breaking into the mayor's place, and I think they're there just as a distraction for Catwoman to get into the mayor's office and steal like a hard drive.
Right.
I don't know or remember if those mercs, I guess they were sent by the same people. I guess they were, right? Them and Catwoman?
I think so. Yeah, yeah. Because you see those same mercs later.
Yeah, okay. Because Catwoman will later say, hey, I really need that hard drive because there's some people that are going to show up at the docks. And I was supposed to be there. And then it was the mercs. So I guess they are from the same people. So that's like one rogues gallery villain at the very beginning. And then the whole time you're dealing with Harvey Dent, who you know might be Two-Face later, or might just stay Harvey Dent, who's to say. I don't know. It really could go either way. I could see them wanting to focus more just on like the political level of Gotham. And then that would make sense to keep Harvey as Harvey.
Right. I don't think they would keep him Harvey forever, but I could totally see that being like a we'll keep him Harvey for now, and that could be like a season 2 thing or something.
Yeah, there is a
this
season 2.
This is me just speaking
so.
with no knowledge on it.
Yeah, and I have no knowledge about like what actually happens in season 2, but just from the marketing of it, I know that it's very Joker centric.
Right. Yeah.
Because Joker is just on like all the box art stuff, and I don't remember Joker showing up, so I maybe Joker's not even in this season.
Some good restraint, like not going with like the absolute biggest. Do you think you would say that the Joker is maybe like the biggest villain of all time?
I think Darth Vader is probably
right. I'm just speaking like strictly for like superhero stuff.
Sure, yeah. I mean, the Joker's the only one that gets their own movie. I guess Harley Quinn got one. Harley Quinn got one. But like Harley Quinn is an accessory character to the Joker. So,
exactly.
Yeah, I think I would.
Yeah, so interesting that they choose to hold off on him. I think it's a good call, but yeah, a little surprising.
Yeah, I think nowadays you've got some Marvel characters who probably put up a good argument, like Loki and Thanos, but their recency bias there, you know, everyone, my mom knows who the Joker is. My mom does not know who Thanos is.
I think part of it comes from Batman just having so many interpretations, and they usually involve the Joker. So
yeah,
even though like Thanos is the new hotness for the Marvel movies, that's like a Thanos that's big. Joker like transcends to any version of Batman.
Yeah, and bats and clowns are natural fishing rivals as well. So
that's true. So it just makes sense.
Yeah, it just makes sense.
You get it when you see it.
I've always thought about that. Like, why is the bat's biggest rival a clown? Like,
I honestly just think it just worked out that way. Like they made the Joker not as like, oh man, he and Batman are gonna be like total adversaries. You can't have one without the other. I think he just started off as just some jackoff who became Batman's villain.
Well, I think characters like Catwoman and the Penguin as animal-based like predators of some sort make more sense to be like the rival to Batman, and they're kind of setting up Oswald Cobblepot to be the foil to Bruce Wayne in this story. So I think Telltale's making it right. But yeah, in the wild, clowns and bats will actually struggle for fishing salmon rights. So
yeah, it's up to you to decide who deserves it more.
Okay, so in the story, even so far, you've got Catwoman, you've got Two-Face, you've got the Penguin. And none of them are the bad guy yet. Yeah,
they're just setting stuff up, which might be one of the reasons why it feels a little dry. Like, I don't want to use that as to say it's bad or anything, because what they do here is great, but I feel like and this is on me, I'm expecting the big shots, like the big super villains. I don't normally, if I'm talking about like best Batman villains, I think Carmine Falcone is not one that comes to mind.
And I think in defense of the game, he's clearly a stand-in. He's a pawn for something bigger.
Right, yeah.
Because you find this horrific wreckage at the docks when you go there. And there's a bunch of dead cops and dead mercenaries. And, like, their guts are ripped out. There's been an explosion.
There's one that's, like, only guts.
There's one that is only guts. His entire body was blown off.
He didn't have his body on.
Dude, what if I cut your body off? Would you hate that?
I'm gonna cut your entire body off.
The only way to make losing 96% of your body feel better is to lose 100% of your body. And just be the body. Anyway, there was a particular.
Hold on, before you go on, I'm just picturing Batman going up to the pile of intestines left on the ground and saying it's too late to do anything for him.
His entire body was cut off.
It's too late to save these intestines.
Just missed him.
Better luck next time.
There was one cop who was frenzied into a psychosis and like scratched some other guy's face off.
Right.
And you're coming here way after the scene. You weren't there for any of this. You're like just detectiving it together again. And at the end of the episode, you have Falcone, and you can question him. And I guess depending on how you do at the questioning, you can find out that he says like, "Look, I am trying to smuggle those chemicals, but someone's trying to set me up because that legit wasn't me." And they
beat him to the punch.
He's the kind of person that would lie, but you can tell in this situation, he's telling the truth.
Yeah, this isn't necessarily something he would lie about, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the chemical that causes a psychosis in people, to me, that rings of Scarecrow.
Ooh. I'd be down for that. I like Scarecrow. I think Scarecrow is like just a cool concept for a villain.
Yeah, Scarecrow's a really cool concept for a villain, and was weirdly the main villain of the first Nolan movie. I don't think that's... It's just a weird, specific Batman villain to pick for headlining a movie. But yeah, like if Scarecrow is involved, or like maybe his chemical supplier is involved here, that would make sense with the psychosis of the cop trying to claw the guy's eyes out or whatever.
Yeah. If that's where this is going, then cool. I'm down for some scare. I feel like Scarecrow's whole deal is something you can get a lot out of in a video game.
Yeah, so that's okay. To recap, Two-Face here, Catwoman's here, Penguin's here, possibly Scarecrow, Falcone's here, and Thomas Wayne might have been crooked.
Right.
Yeah, we're finding out now that Thomas Wayne might have been something of a black market money launderer, and that's how he set up his wealth, which really affects Bruce Wayne. I like this. I've never seen a Bruce Wayne that has to seriously reckon with the fact that he has money.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like, to me anyway, Bruce Wayne in general is usually never like super that interesting to me. But this is like the first time where I'm like, oh no, I care about what's like going on with this guy. I want to see. I like that they're kind of balancing out. You get to be Bruce Wayne and Batman.
Also, Vicky Vale is here.
Yeah.
And Commissioner Gordon is here. So really just like a huge slew of Batman characters all at once.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel like overwhelming. It's not like it's not like Game of Thrones where when they in that first episode they were just piling on more and more characters, and I was like, oh, this is a lot. I'm not going to be able to keep all these people straight. And I did. It wasn't that big a deal. But here I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's Commissioner Gordon. And I think it's because you have that familiarity with other Batman things. You're like, oh no, I just like, I know this. I got this.
Yeah, I think that... I think that maybe it's just top of mind for me, so maybe this isn't actually a comparison. But it feels a lot like Zelda, where, you can have... every Zelda game has a different Link, a different Zelda, possibly a different villain.
Right.
But there's so much cultural shorthand of, Link is going to save Zelda from Ganon. That, like, the story really only has to do the extra stuff, the detail filling in, that people really like a lot. It doesn't have to focus on things like, okay, so what exactly makes Zelda a good person and Ganondorf a bad person? It's shorthand, it's... Oswald Cobblepot is, as the Penguin, sort of like the dark side of Wayne Enterprises. He's a very financially well-to-do businessman, except not in this, I guess. But
yeah,
yeah,
but you still like have an idea of who he is. Like, even though it is a different take on the Penguin, there's enough there where you're like, Oh yeah, I know kind of who this guy is, even if they're doing different stuff with it. So it's never like overwhelming. It's not like you're meeting these characters for the first time.
I think the funniest aspect of the Penguin in this game is that Oswald has a thick Cockney accent, and they reveal he grew up in Gotham with Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
So his accent's just sort of like, oh, it's just like a thing he's doing.
He's just doing it for fun.
Yeah. So the helpful characters, Alfred, Vicky Vale, Gordon, what do you think of those?
I really like Bruce and Alfred's chemistry, and I feel like that's something that they usually get pretty right in Batman things. But one thing that struck me was I like that this Bruce Wayne isn't just like a totally humorless sourpuss of a man. Like, he has his demons he's fighting with, but he kind of yucks it up with Alfred a little bit.
Yeah, the thing that Alfred, well, I guess that's up to you, the player, right? Because there are some ruder, colder takes. You can kind of be whatever Batman you want to be.
Right.
I brought this up before, just from remembering it, and I purposely avoided it this time, which feels a little bit like metagaming. But there was a dialogue option at the party at the very beginning, where I believe it's where Harvey Dent is finished up with his speech, and then he gestures to Bruce and says, "And the man of the hour, thank you for inviting us to your house, Bruce. Say hi, Bruce." At that moment, this time I said, "Hi, Bruce," and everyone laughed.
I said that too.
Yeah, it's good. But another option is, it's just listed on like the bottom of the screen as, enjoy the wine, it's expensive. And the first time I played the game, I read that and I thought, oh, that's kind of like a tongue-in-cheek, but still like a little bit of a dick move. That's a fun Bruce Wayne characterization.
Right.
So I picked it, and what Bruce actually says is, enjoy the wine, it costs more than what you make in a year. It's just like, whoa, Telltale, I didn't agree to that. That's so much more than I thought.
A little too far on the dick side.
Yeah, I mean, that's always, I want to say what the button prompts say exactly. Don't make me do some other shit that I'm not accountable for.
Don't fool me into this.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's a straight up and down complaint with this style. Never make me say like more than what the button prompts say. If it changes the feeling, never do that.
Yeah,
that's rude.
Yeah, I'm fine with them saying more than it says there if it's still the general impression of it. But if I'm fine with
totally it being more if it's like the second sentence, but don't change what I'm saying.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I avoided doing that this time. Yeah, another thing I avoided, you can choose how violent your Batman is. You know, most Batmans don't kill. There's been some edgier depictions of the characters that do, but Batman definitely can break an arm if he wants to, just because. And that's your choice. You can choose to do that or not. Did you break that guy's arm?
I did not break his arm, but this is where they get me with stuff like this, where I'm like, well, I don't want to break this guy's arm. It might be better if I don't, but what if I could get results, like a lot better results for something very important if I do.
Excuse me again, that's a bat sneeze.
I was about to say bat sneeze.
Holy bat sneeze, Batman. Yeah, I mean, but that's kind of the mindset of a crooked cop, right? You're
right.
You're thinking, well, everything I'm doing is for the greater good of the city I'm patrolling, so why shouldn't I take it out on people who do deserve it?
Right.
But now you're talking about police brutality.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a fine line, because sometimes it's like, oh, you're going over the line for something that's not that important. Here, it's like, these are very dangerous chemicals that, well, you can see the results right in front of you. Look at the intestines over there. If you can't get this guy to talk, people could be very dead, like a lot of people, very fast. So it is something like, okay, I sorry, man, I gotta break your arm. I gotta do this real fast. I didn't, but like, it really did make me think, like, I don't have the time to fuck around with you, mister.
Yeah. Batman, on a politics level, has always been very interesting because there's ways to do the story where you're kind of taking it from a historically more liberal or progressive perspective, where you're saying Batman exists because police officers and police departments can't not be corrupt. So
Right.
the people are now policing themselves. But I think it's just so much easier to look at, and maybe the game is heading in this direction of like interrogating this feeling. It's easier to look at the idea of Batman and to realize that his superpower, people say his superpower is money. That's not true. His superpower is that he's a cop that is not on the hook for completely brutalizing anyone. That's his
Right.
superpower. That's some of the most conservative bullshit ever, right? Like, man, I wish the cops were just allowed to punch more. That's what Batman is.
That's what they're missing.
And he's allowed to do it because of money. So that really, that's where the money comes in. It's allowing him to have the superpower of police brutality.
Right.
And this is a young Bruce Wayne, I think, because he's grappling with this. Just like the Nolan movies Batman, there's this running thread sort of in the background of, I want to elect Harvey Dent because I want to stop having to be Batman. Just the city is purely unsafe enough for people to live, so I have to do this. At least in his mind, he feels this way. But he sees Harvey Dent as a real way out for the city. And like at the end of this episode, you can tell how beat up he is about the fact of like, dude, all my money is like all of my wealth. I grew up thinking that Thomas and Martha Wayne were such good people, but now I'm finding out they were just mobsters. I have to reckon with the fact that my money's black money. I don't want that.
Yeah, ew.
I feel that by the end of the season, we'll see Batman go through like a personal evaluation of like, man, is it okay for me to even do this? A very reluctant Batman, but
Right.
still like an obsessive Batman. And Alfred, that's the relationship with Alfred that I think is it's a little played out to me. The Alfred relationship in this game.
Okay.
Because he keeps saying, like, Alfred's big thing throughout this whole game is just saying, Bruce, you don't have to go. You could just stay here and enjoy the night.
We could eat crackers.
Does the city need Batman more than you need Batman, Bruce? You could just not.
You could just not. It would be so easy.
I hate to see you get punched, Bruce.
You should have been Alfred.
Well, so that's Alfred in everything, right? Like, the Alfred is a little more one note than I think the rest of Batman is. Batman's pretty versatile. You can do a lot of different kinds of Batman stories. Alfred is almost always like, please don't throw your life away like your parents are also dead.
Man, I really wish we would get a Batman that's written like that.
And Batman,
like just stumbling over their words, saying stuff wrong.
I mean, my favorite actor who's ever portrayed the character is our friend Matt Corna. Matt Corna is British Batman, and he's fantastic. He's
right.
So good. And every time he dresses up as Batman and walks down his neighborhood as Batman. So maybe that's the kind of Alfred Matt Corna's Batman needs. Just the one that says, "I hope you don't like your parents die like in the same way."
Your parents died, and I hope I kind of hope you don't do.
To go back to the actual game, though, I mean, I think that's annoying. Just this guy,
Right, I get you.
Bruce Wayne clearly doesn't want to be Batman, but like there's shit going on that's forcing his hand, and then there's this other guy in his house that's like, "You don't have to," and like the player and Bruce equally know, like, dude, yes I do. Like, there's
Are you
stuff
gonna do
going
it?
on. Yeah, who's doing this?
You put on the costume, Alfred. You think I can stay home and eat crackers all day?
Yeah, it's this form of storytelling that I think is common to Batman stories and superhero stories at large, where the having to be a hero is treated like an addiction.
Right.
So they can tell it a little bit like an addiction story, but I've just never bought it because it always feels more important to just go and do it.
Right,
Just
to
like
do
go out and do the shit that you need to do.
Yeah. Like it's not super interesting to me that they feel like they like have to do it for that specific reason. Like a character wants to do it because they believe in upholding the law and stopping all these wacky zany criminals. That's all I need. I don't need them to be like, "No, but I need to do Batman."
Yeah, and like I mean, if it's written that way, then that's what the character is because it's written that way. But I've just been responding to all of Alfred's urges for me to not go out and like risk my life and try too hard with little quips that are like, "Dude, I'm fine. It clearly needs to be done, and I'm fine. Back off.
Yeah, do not even trip.
Do not even trip. The piece of glass in my back is so small. Everyone's had that."
Yeah, do you know how many glass I've had in this back?
So what else do we want to talk about this episode? You got anything?
I really like that scene where he meets Selena Kyle for the first time and they just like
Yeah.
immediately know who the other is, because like he sees the markings around her eye, she sees the claw marks on his face.
Yeah, she's got a black eye, and Bruce Wayne goes, "I did punch a woman really hard."
They're just both like it's like almost comedic how it's just like, oh, these two just like immediately know and just are not saying it.
Yeah, in this in this universe, Selena Kyle is Harvey Dent's girlfriend. I didn't get any more.
That's how I took it.
Yeah, it seems like an early relationship, but they're dating in some way. I don't think I've ever seen that. I don't think I've seen Catwoman
I don't think I have
date
either.
Two-Face before.
Yeah, I'm down for that. I think it's a neat, interesting little difference.
Yeah, but Harvey Dent clearly does not know about Catwoman. He just knows about Selena Kyle.
And Batman has a lot of like shitty friends, or friends who will become shitty.
Yeah, Harvey Dent seems great now.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
going forward,
if there's a choice later in this game to give this man a coin, I'm not doing it.
You don't. Sorry, man. Look, I just can't let you have this. It seems harmless, but
if there's a cutscene where Harvey Dent pulls out a coin and he goes, my grandfather gave me this, and I'm just immediately grabbing it and swallowing it.
No!
And swallowing the coin.
Give me that!
Okay. So Vicky Vale, Commissioner Gordon, the two helper people. Vicky Vale is a journalist in this, and she's trying, at the beginning of the episode, it feels like gotcha journalism, where she's like snuck into your campaign party for Harvey Dent. And it's a fundraiser. You can tell that like not everyone at the party is yet completely sold on Harvey Dent. But it's doing work. And she's like trying to sneak in there and get a quote on from Bruce Wayne specifically, which I think is why it didn't work out for her in that juncture. Because she didn't come for Harvey, she came for Bruce. And that was offensive to them.
The very idea.
The very idea of going to a fund... I mean, I agree, of going to a campaign fundraiser for a guy, and that guy is standing right there in front of you, and you could talk to him about that, but then you just want to talk to the rich guy because he's rich?
Yeah,
I
just want to talk to this rich guy over here.
That's a little offensive. I empathize with Bruce Wayne and Harvey Dent's feelings about that.
First question for you, Mr. Wayne. Can I have some money?
Can I have some?
You have like a lot, and I don't.
Can I ask why? No.
No, I don't think so.
No, because I'm using it for illegal things.
Well, I guess it would look bad to say no.
Later on through the episode, you kind of get the sense that she is much more like a by-the-books seeker of truth type of journalist. And you start to realize you can trust her a little bit. And you also feel that way about Commissioner Gordon, who has routinely stopped the cops from shooting at you.
Yeah.
Like, the cops will show up, and there seems to be some sort of arrest out for Batman. Like, the cops are not cool with Batman being around. But this is still, like, early days for Batman, so the cops are not, like, on his side yet.
Right, which makes sense, but boy, that one that just, like, shoots Batman in the side.
Yeah, he's fighting with Catwoman, and the cops show up, and Gordon's, like, leading the charge, and he says, "Don't shoot!" And you get, like, a minute of fighting with Catwoman, and then one guy just, like, "I got bored, I'm shooting."
and Commissioner Gordon is just like, "God damn it!"
I see, you don't shoot!
I told you don't shoot!
Yeah, it was weird, right? Because it was like a full minute after he said that, and then he's just like, "I'm taking the shot."
Maybe he just wanted to be the guy who took down Batman.
Yeah, but by the end of the episode, you actually get the sense that, like, within the span of this episode, the cops have turned on your side.
Are you sure about that? Because for me, the cops shot the shit out of me when I was trying to leave.
Oh, yeah, that did happen.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so did you arrest or brutalize Falcone?
I just arrested him, I don't want to be the kind of Batman that brutalizes people. I like that the choice is there because I think having the choice of being, like, more by the books and merciful or just being a total brutalizing machine, I think that works a lot for the character of Batman, but I don't want to... That's not the kind of Batman I want to make, but I think it's very cool that you can choose to do it.
Yeah, like the Ben Affleck Batman and Batman v Superman, that guy will just cut off an arm. It does not seem to care.
Yeah, he'll laugh.
Yeah, because he's been Batman for like 50 years.
Yeah.
And he's bored of it already.
Yeah, I want to chop off some arms now, I think.
This Bruce Wayne is... you don't get the sense that he's that new at Batman. He's not like... This is not an origin story at all.
Yeah.
But he is maybe in the process of establishing himself in the city. Maybe like 2 years or so doing it because there was someone at the party who was talking about... And now all this news about this masked guy who goes around our city. So that feels topical still.
Yeah, it feels like he's been at it for a while, but not so much that, like, everyone's on his side. Like, people are still wary of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but Gordon, like, routinely is on your side and will hear you out and will take information from you and has a link established with you so you can tell him things as Batman. He doesn't know Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Right.
But he knows Batman is, like, a generally good person. So so that's a fun relationship. You eventually get a bunch of news. You find a bunch of information, a bunch of evidence that would finally be enough to take down Falcone, because Falcone, a lot like Beatrice Salazar from the game CSI Fatal Conspiracy, is known to be a massive criminal and like mob boss, but they just don't have enough hard evidence, which is another fantastic CSI video game, to take him down.
Yeah, they say you could send Falcone to prison and he'll be right out the next day.
Yeah, he's got that deadly intent.
He's got that deadly intent I've heard so much about.
3 dimensions of murder. Anyway, you have the choice to give that evidence to Vicky Vale, and she can just take him down right then and there by publishing enough information so that the public knows, or you can give it to Gordon and the police can take him down.
Yeah, so what did you do?
Gave it to Gordon.
I also gave it to Gordon. It had me kind of... I really did think about it, because, like, with Vicky Vale, she was saying, like, oh, yeah, just... so you give her a statement trying to clear up your family earlier, and she was saying, like, oh, yeah, all the major news outlets have this evidence, but it's flimsy. So I was thinking, I could give this to her, and it would help kind of clear the Wayne name a little bit.
Yeah.
But... I gave it to Gordon because it seemed like this shit with Falcone and the chemicals, which it turned out to not be him necessarily. But I figured that was the more important thing to handle, even if it meant the Wayne name was still up in the air.
Yeah, so the whole, like, reason that Bruce Wayne wouldn't publicly, as Bruce Wayne, necessarily be wise to speak about Falcone in any kind of way is because Falcone at the very beginning of the episode crashes the party. Well, it doesn't crash. Harvey Dent invites him.
Yeah.
And Bruce doesn't know this is happening. He gets mad about that. But Harvey Dent's thought is just like, hey man, yeah, he's a criminal and he's like a bad person. But we're trying to do the right thing. And if Falcone uses his influence to push for this election in my favor, then I'll definitely win. So it's for the greater good. Like that's the reason for it. And Falcone himself, sort of trying to intimidate them, says, "Hey, I can make you mayor, or I can definitely make sure you'll never get another elected position again."
Right.
So I was thinking, if I give this to Vicky Vale, who, like, of the two people, I think as an individual, I actually trust more than Gordon at this point. Just this version of her, she seems trustful. If I give it to Vicky Vale, that doesn't, like, immediately ruin him. And I need him to be immediately ended so that he doesn't have the chance to take, like, punitive measures against Harvey Dent's campaign because of this information coming out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I feel like if the cops just go ahead and arrest him and take him down, then he won't have the opportunity to campaign against Harvey Dent in any kind of meaningful way. It'll just be faster.
Yeah, I'll get better results faster.
Yeah, but it's a weird, like, telltale kind of choice, though, because I think that isn't actually going to change at all. What's going to change is just your relationship with those two people.
Right. Which is still important.
Yeah, it is still important, and in that way, I might have wanted to go more with Vicky than Gordon, but I feel good about going with Gordon, too.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Yeah, I also really liked how, it's an action game. You're playing as Batman. There's a lot of fights in it. But one of the most, like, tense-filled scenes in the game is this press conference that you give memorializing the opening of a new hospital, a new mental health hospital that's supposed to replace Arkham Asylum.
Yeah.
And just the fact that is the thing that feels the most suspenseful, like, and stress-filled, because Bruce Wayne's just getting texts while he's about to speak. That feels very grounded in comparison to what you would get out of Batman normally. In a way
totally.
that is, I think, kind of cool.
Same.
Yeah.
Totally agreed.
Because the fight with Falcone is like the climactic end of the episode, but I didn't care about that. I don't think Bruce Wayne's going to lose a fight. He'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Do you think Superman exists in this universe?
Um,
And the other Justice League weirdos?
um, it's hard to say. I mean, it's hard to say because there's literally no indication
Right.
of either way. But I guess I'd be fine with it if they were. Like, this is purely getting into this is purely getting into hypotheticals. But like, if this ended up like bringing in other Justice League members, or even doing like Telltale's Superman, Telltale's The Green Lantern, I'd be fine with that, partially because it is their own takes. I would love to see how they like interpret characters from these other series. So even if they did like a big Justice League coming together thing, you'd be getting like different versions of these characters, different versions of these villains. I think that could be cool.
Yeah, it's interesting because like the Nolan movies have no connection to anything outside of Batman proper in them. And anytime that you bring the rest of the Justice League in, Batman feels very weird in that situation because he's not a superhero and there's like actual magic going on. So the idea of being a detective trying to figure out like, well, this logically couldn't have happened because there's no phosphorus residue here. I'm thinking like, well, have you considered what if it was actually magic?
Yeah.
That does change the whole dynamic there. It's interesting because like somehow to make a more real feeling Batman story, you have to go against what the character actually is, which is actually in the source material in the same universe as aliens and wizards and stuff. and very supernatural things.
Yeah, Batman, we have Zatanna here with her crazy special magic. You can probably put your little magnifying glass away.
Even just within the Batman pantheon, you've got like Poison Ivy, who is a plant woman. Like that's not real.
That's true.
That won't show up in a grounded experience like that, like this Batman.
Right. But you know what? I wouldn't have it any other. I think of like a Batman world where it's like just the grounded supervillains and there's no like crazy magic plants or like Clayface or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I mean, I get it. It's kind of neat going for a more grounded take, but I like the weird stuff.
Yeah.
I like Clayface.
It does kind of feel like you can't have a story about like the ethics of being a good billionaire, which is what this story seems to be about. You can't go that extra depth. You can't really do that exploration and have a sand monster. Like, and have a talking shark guy.
Right, but at the same time,
but I do like the talk. Yeah, I like the talking shark guy.
I want the shark creature, man.
Yeah, maybe it's cowardice. Maybe they should have tried having the shark guy.
They should have had the shark guy in there. Now I'm picked. What if they did a story like divorced from Batman, but it's like a similar deal where it's a man who is dealing with being a billionaire and deciding what kind of man he wants to be, but he's also part shark.
Yeah, that's like a BoJack Horseman kind of deal. And BoJack Horseman does do it well, so that's something to think about, Batman.
That's true. Maybe
you could have
put
been
the shark
BoJack
guy
Horseman
in next time. Didn't consider that, did you?
Yeah, and then like even the Joker in certain like whenever the Joker shows up in like the Justice League type stuff, that's a Joker who's basically his superpower is Bugs Bunny in real life syndrome, where he can like get run over by a steamroller, even when everything else is so grounded and like Batman's still thinking about his dead parents. Joker just can show up and then have a gun that has a little flag that says bang that comes out, but when he aims it at someone, it still makes someone's head explode. That's the kind of cartoon stuff that Joker can do. And then when Joker's in like a grounded Batman that's just Batman and no Superman and no Green Lantern, that kind of like the movie Joker is one of the most depressing movies of all time. That's just a guy who needs help. That's just a
Right.
guy who's like upset about some stuff.
You know what's so interesting to me? This is going like a little off topic, but so a friend of mine was playing an episode of Batman the Animated Series the other day, and I don't know if this was meant to be like Joker's origin story in that world or not, but it was so baffling to me because so we were talking about how Joker's like one of the most well-known, like probably the biggest supervillain of all time in terms of like superhero stories.
Yeah.
And this is considered one of the best superhero cartoons ever made. And the episode I had the Joker's backstory be that he's just some asshole who lost a comedy competition.
Yeah.
Like he kidnapped the judges of the comedy competition because they didn't think he was funny, and he was just some regular asshole who didn't matter. Now he's the fucking Joker, and he's going to kill you with funny joke ha-has.
Well, I don't know if you've seen the movie Joker, but that's that too. That's also that guy's origin story. But of course, like, it's a live action movie that takes itself a lot more seriously and gives itself time to develop the reason why losing a comedy competition would, like, just ruin a person who only lives for that.
Yeah, that totally works for something like that, but it's really baffling in Batman the animated series, which does have Poison Ivy and Clayface and the like in it. But also the Joker is just like he's just a wacky villain. He's just like, "Oh, I'm here to tell jokes and rob a bank." And like he'll like blow up Gotham Harbor or whatever. Like he is a villain who should be taken seriously. But he's still like a villain who's played for laughs in that show at the same time. He's like Mojo Jojo.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy to me that one of the most highly praised cartoons with one of the most important villains of all time, his story is that he was just some loser who lost a comedy competition and now he's the Joker. Unless it's specifically that take, like the Joker movie, you're not gonna get that from like a regular Batman thing with that's just like a traditional Batman story with a traditional Joker.
Yeah, and I'll say that like the
me.
Joker movie is not. I don't love it personally, but I still think that you can certainly say that it earns a guy becoming the Joker. That's what the movie is about. It takes the time to do it. I maybe this is a hot take, but I think the falls in acid version of the Joker origin story that is sometimes used, I hate that. I really don't like that one.
Ooh, how come? So I'm not like the biggest fan of it either, but it never like bothered me, or I just kind of accepted it, I guess. But you have some pretty strong feelings about it. It sounds.
Well, yeah. So like the Tim Burton's The Batman movie has the Joker fall into like he's sort of a put upon I guess like a businessman,
right,
and falls into the vat of acid and then just comes out and he's the Joker. And that's like more schlocky 80s superhero style something than anything. Just falls into a vat of the thing and now he's insane and tells jokes. Like that's the
it made him really funny.
It did make him really funny. But yeah, that's I'd rather, especially if it's a character like the Joker, where I think the point of having this really is going off tangent because the Joker, remember, he's not in this game. But yeah, I just think if you're having a character that's based on on unfortunate misconceptions, I would say, of mental health issues, having that just come from a physical interaction minimizes the whole deal. And I think that Heath Ledger's Joker in The Dark Knight, there's a reason people really gravitate toward it. And I think the mysteriousness of like, he's unhinged for sure in that he doesn't have a sense of like a moral compass or anything. But he's still logically thinking through what he wants to happen. It just doesn't make any sense that he wants it. That feels like a much more I mean, it's certainly much more grounded, but even just relatable and understandable version of the Joker origin story of like, you can't know it. It won't make sense to you if you hear it even, so don't ask.
Don't even bother.
Don't even ask. Without going the whole kind of like depression pornography feeling of the movie The Joker.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the interpretation too. Like, if you're doing a schlocky Batman, then you can totally have a schlocky Joker. I don't mind, like, oh, Joker fell in acid, now he's a funny clown.
Yeah, but I mean, like, just
like,
having
jokey.
one... if he bombs on stage once, and then just, like, in that moment, like, steam comes out of his ears, and his face turns all red, and then all white, and he's like, stop being mean! And then shoots up the place. That's still very schlocky, but it's still, like, coming from a place of... oh, like, that's the reason. It's like, it's psychic. It's a guy who was beaten down. That just feels more right to me than chemical, just the acid thing. That's nothing to me. Like, in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Electro falls into a vat of electric eels and gets electricity powers. And that movie came out within the last 10 years.
That's true.
Like, that one sucks. I guess there is just like, Spider-Man got bit by a spider and now has spider powers, so I guess there's that, and I don't really care about that, so maybe I'm being unfair.
Well, here's a question for you. What if they did both in something? Like, let's say Joker bombs on stage and it really gets to him. He's really having these mental issues. He tries to kill himself by throwing himself in the vat of acid, but that kind of has the Joker effect, but it really brings those qualities that were already there. It just emphasizes them more. It really plays up who he is, but those seeds were already planted. Would you buy that?
Well, I kind of think that's what they were hinting at with Jared Leto's Joker a little bit. And, you know, Jared Leto, that guy, not my fave. But I do like the idea that, like, the acid is just a disfiguring acid, but it was the process of... He also is an acid falling in Joker origin guy. And he also pushes Harley Quinn in there. So that's why she does it. Has the whiter skin as well. Like, he was already ready to break, and this was just like such a traumatic thing to happen to his body that he gave into the psychic torment.
It's what puts him over the edge.
Yeah, but it's just like a painful acid that does discolor his skin and hurts him. But that's the thing that drove him wild, just a wild and crazy guy, is just the life that he was living before that. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. That's maybe the nicest thing you can say about Jared Leto Joker, though.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason he pushes Harley Quinn in there as well. Like, it doesn't alter you to make you wild and insane, because she was already getting that way because she was with the Joker. It's just like a traumatic experience that he felt she should experience.
Right. It kind of cements it rather than causes it.
Yeah, or like it might be entirely irrelevant to it. It's just It's just a wild thing to happen to a wild guy.
He's crazy.
Yeah.
Boy, that really did get off track from the episode, but I think it's interesting just talking about Batman in a general sense along the way.
Yeah, and there's that one comic strip. It was an official comic strip, and I think it was the first, if I'm not mistaken, origin story for the Joker, even though they didn't really pursue it at all, where, like, kind of as a joke, it's shown that Alfred dresses up as the Joker every night to give Bruce something to do.
He's going out again. Guess I better put the costume on.
Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, that's kind of silly. That could be fun.
Yeah, that's an angle you could do for your video game.
Yeah, good. You could make it Alfred.
Why not?
Okay, should we talk about what's actually in the game anymore, or are we circling because we're about to head into our segments?
I think we talked about it enough. One thing I liked that we did was the stuff with the drone.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and also the detective work. We didn't actually talk about that.
Yeah, that's important. We should talk about it.
Okay, talk about it.
Okay, so
Yeah, you weren't ready to do it, even though you suggested it.
You're right. I was counting on you to do the heavy lifting.
Not in my podcast.
So you're told to go down to the docks because you stole that drive from Selena. So she's like, "Look, you're not going to give this back to me. Though, just do this for me. Then you meet them at the dock. Here's the address. Go do it. I was supposed to meet them 15 minutes ago, so go do it right now, you man."
Mm-hmm.
You get there, and boy, is it a shit show. We talked about the intestines.
Yeah, we did talk about this scene. Just the mechanics of it.
Right. I thought this was cool how you kind of have to clue things together. And it wasn't, like, difficult or anything. Like, it's pretty, like, obvious what you're supposed to connect with what. Because, like, you can't... Well, I did get tripped up once. There was one part where Batman's like, actually, I don't think that's how it would have happened.
Yeah. But, like, there's a bullet hole where it looks like there's a bullet that melted through the metal somehow.
Right.
And then somewhere else, there's a body where it looks like it was a policeman's body, and it looks like his head burned up from the inside. Which is some really Walking Dead style gruesome behavior.
Right. It kind of made me laugh, though, because when you go to click on it, it says, "Burnt head, examine."
Yeah, like the name of the object in game is Burnt Head.
Burnt head.
I
guess I'll examine the burnt head. Yeah.
That was his name before.
I wonder what's going to happen to him in the future, I said.
So, you progress through the scene by linking the head that was burned from the inside to the bullet hole that looked like it melted through the metal, and then Batman will sort of put those together like, oh, they were using some sort of bullet that heats up upon impact.
Yeah.
And you find more about the scene by linking these little pieces of evidence, and it was hard for me not to think about, like, wow, this is very efficient, and it's fake and not how real detective work is done, but it does make me wonder if this was CSI and we just had to, like, draw a line between I'm trying to think of a single CSI case.
We just did
it earlier this week. It wasn't even a full week ago.
Yeah, take the one with the guy who fell on the cactuses.
Yeah, the guy that fell on the cactuses. You could, like, link the fact that he's on the cactuses to the blood on the railing above and say, like, oh, there was blood up here, so he didn't fall, he was pushed onto the cactuses, without having to go to the lab and just internalize that, because some of those things are very visually obvious, but we had to go to the lab just to do it.
Make sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then the drone, that was a different scene later on in Falcone's having, it looks like an office party or something.
Yeah. This was interesting because it is, like, you're doing the exact same thing. You're linking things together, but instead of just linking evidence to guess how it went down, you're putting together a plan to take out his mafia goons.
Yeah, there's like 4 guards who, with metal detection, you can tell all have guns, and you're like writing the plan ahead of time for, am I going to throw, when I walk in the place, am I going to throw this guy into the stairs, or am I going to throw him onto a statue? And depending on how you do it, you can get out of there basically injury-free if you planned it well enough.
Yeah, which I did, but boy, the way you described it makes me think of Batman just going, okay, so if I do this, nah, I shouldn't do it like that. Oh, but what if oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and a lot of the like options you have are like, if I do it this way, he'll definitely die.
I could slam his head into the table.
I could throw him off the balcony of this 70-foot building.
I do like having a Batman that doesn't kill, so I tried to avoid anything that would go against that. But like I said, it's cool that you can just choose to play this Batman as brutal as you want.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that I've tipped my hand about my political leanings on this show before, and maybe my feelings on the police in general. But
Right.
like my yeah, the my the version of Batman that is a fantasy to me is like he can just figure out more. He has more access to truth
Yeah.
than anyone, just because he can. Nowadays, with smartphones being as powerful as they are, this is kind of trivialized. But before, the idea that someone could read DNA while standing there at the place and not having to go to like a giant machine was what made someone like Batman very very exciting. He's got so many little gadgets on that belt that all do different things that your phone just does instantly now. So everyone's a Batman.
Yeah, I can just load up the Batarang app. It's fine.
That's just throwing your phone.
Got him.
Yeah. That's so many of these gadgets are like like a camera, a
Yeah.
compass, a rock to throw.
Yeah, anyone can do it, bro. You're not special.
There was a 1950s Batman where he had like a pocket calculator on the belt.
It's like, wow, that's crazy.
And he could instantly do these really complex calculations, and Robin was astounded.
Holy numbers, Batman.
Okay, so yeah, I think it's time to jump into the segments then.
Right, I agree. Let's do that.
You want to start with Weekly Guy this time?
Let's start with Weekly Guy this time. That's always the first one I write down in my notes.
I think I usually write down Golden Moment, Choice Cut, Weekly Guy in that order, but I say them in whatever order.
Right. That's a good way to keep our audience on their toes.
Yeah. I'll say who I didn't choose first. I really wanted my Weekly Guy to be Oswald. Because Oswald has a funny voice, and I think is just kind of a fun character.
Yeah.
I was misremembering a little bit. I like how compelling he was. I think I blew it up in my memory a little bit because on this playthrough, I was not particularly impressed with the characterization of Oswald.
Okay, I like him enough that I want to see what he's up to, but yeah, it's not like he's a major presence in this episode.
Yeah, I want to give him Weekly Guy later when he earns it.
Okay.
When and if he earns it. I don't remember if he will. I don't know.
Keep that in mind, Oswald. Work a little harder next time.
But I wrote down for realsies, I wrote down Gordon.
Okay, cool. That's a good pick.
Yeah. I thought Gordon's characterization was pretty not clever or twisty or anything, but it was just a really solid characterization of this guy who's like beholden to certain rules, wants to get the job done. Written really true to character, just up and down a good presentation of the character. Also really liked Harvey Dent. I thought that he was really good at what he was doing too, but I did side with Gordon in the end.
Yeah, I think Gordon's an interesting character. Have you ever seen that Harley Quinn show on HBO Max?
I've seen like one episode of it.
Okay. So Commissioner Gordon's in that, and I feel like he's too jokey in it.
Well, that show is like a parody, right?
Kind of. Like it is very jokey. It's a more comedy-based Batman show, which is totally fine, but I feel like usually the characters are still pretty like in sync with who they are. Like Batman doesn't come across as like, oh, this is like a totally pathetic parody of who Batman is.
Mm-hmm.
You still buy him as Batman. Commissioner Gordon's the only one where I'm like, oh no, this is just turning him into a goof. This is making him like, his whole thing is like, he's very pathetic. He's a drunk and he's Mr. Oh, roll your eyes at him because he's bad at his job and he sucks and he says doofy funny things. And normally I like that show a lot. I think that show's actually very good. But he's maybe like the one character I don't buy in it. And I do like him in this because he's just like a guy who's doing his job, but he's like a good guy. Like you can tell he does seriously want what's best. And like he'll listen to you as Batman, but he also he won't just let Bruce off the hook for any of this. And I think that is a good characterization for him.
Yeah, I think so too. I wish I've seen Gotham because I know he's the main character of Gotham.
Interesting. I know nothing about Gotham. That's an interesting angle.
Yeah, because Gotham takes place during the Thomas Wayne era, so Bruce Wayne's like a little kid,
right?
And it's Gordon sort of taking on the series from the perspective of like, here's what the police can do without a Batman in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't seen that much of it. Shout out to Gotham though, because Gotham takes the Joker and splits it into twins, Jeremy and Jerome, I believe their names are. And those twins are played by Cameron Monaghan. I know him from work.
Ooh, interesting.
He plays California Kestis in the Jedi games.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and then he's also the Joker.
You know a Joker.
Yeah, him and Mark Hamill. I don't know him. I haven't talked to him. I just know him from work. But him and Mark Hamill are both Jedi and both Jokers.
Ain't that just too nutty?
Ain't that just the way the world spins sometimes?
My weekly guy.
Yeah, who's your weekly guy?
Is Selena Kyle.
Yeah, she's
just
good.
Because I thought she was funny in it. I liked her whole thing with Bruce in this episode. I just like that I just like the playful angle with her because like this is a pretty dark world and story. I like when things can, be give you a little levity from it. And I feel like she does a good job while also having like she doesn't feel like a joke character.
No.
But she's someone you can get jokes from. I loved that whole scene with her just talking to Bruce, and they're just both kind of like, yeah, I know who you are. Yes, I do. And yeah, I like that it is just like her starting out. Like Bruce has no idea. Well, now he does, but like he didn't have any idea who Catwoman was. This was their first meeting. I think it kind of goes into, I forget if we were talking about it on the show, if it was before the show. We were talking about how, with this James Gunn taking over of the DC movies, you don't need to know everything going into it. And I kind of like that with this. How it's not an origin story. You know what happened to Bruce, but you're also just jumping into it like, okay, I have enough familiarity with these characters that I know who they are, but even if you didn't, it's like a totally fine little jumping on spot. Like,
yeah, oh, definitely, yeah,
I think that's cool.
Because you don't see the origin story of Batman, but you get the feeling that you are getting the origin story of Penguin. You're pre the origin story of Two-Face. And you also don't get the origin story of Catwoman, but you get the idea that maybe you're seeing the origin of Catwoman and Batman's relationship. So you were still at the start of a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they don't need to fill you in on like every little detail. That's cool. I guess at this point she's not like a super interesting character off the bat, but I just liked her and Bruce's chemistry. I'd love to see her stick around throughout the season.
Yeah, it's kind of tropey, but I fall for this trope every time of like, hey, I know you're Batman, Bruce Wayne. I'm maybe the only person besides your immediate circle of trust that does know, and I'm just gonna make you feel like really awkward about it. I think it's funny fun to say stuff that like is a reference to you being Batman, but you can't talk about it because it would be rude in front of Harvey Dent.
But I can see the sweat growing on your brow.
Yeah, because he's. When he leaves that dinner with Selena Kyle to go check out the docks, he's already wearing a suit, and Selena says, "Make sure you don't forget to change into your suit." And Harvey Dent must be like, what the hell is she talking about?
You're so random, babe.
Why did you say that? He's in a suit already, dummy.
You're so silly.
Yeah, well, she's from out of town. She doesn't know what suits are.
She'll get it. Don't worry.
Yeah, she's kind of new blood to Gotham, so she'll acclimate. Back where she's from, they call suits like bikinis, so.
But then Bruce is just like,
yeah.
You too.
Yeah, I did just tell you, well, Harvey Dent was in the other room, that I was going to change into another suit for some reason. Okay, bye.
I guess that's on me.
I guess that's what we talked about.
Yeah, it's like I said, in this world that is a dark superhero world with lots of murders and stuff, it is nice to have something you can laugh at with it.
Yeah. Yeah, to me, she didn't stand out so much this episode, but I want to see more, and I'm optimistic about seeing more.
Yeah. What's your golden moment?
The lunch with Selena Kyle, actually. That's my golden moment.
Oh.
Yeah, I did like it.
That's so funny, because even though I put her as my weekly guy, that is such a good scene, but it wasn't my golden moment I put down.
Just before we stop talking about that moment looks really cool in the noir filter with
oh, I can imagine.
Just like a cafe setting in that black and white is really neat.
Yeah, that's I might look up like a video of it just to see how it looks.
I mean, if you picture it, you could probably just picture it and be exactly right about what it looks like. But it was neat.
True.
That's one of the times it stood out as most interesting to see. But what is yours?
I just really like the drone stuff near the end, where you're planning out how to take out these henchmen. I don't think I've done it much like that in Telltale before.
No,
like that, and the linking the clues together earlier. I think that's a neat little gimmick. I like when Telltale games have like something, no matter how basic, that kind of it gives it like its own little twist.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Tales from Monkey Island, you could combine the items. Tales from the Borderlands, you had like your scanner. And I feel like this is another in that line where it's not like difficult. It's not like you're struggling to figure out what connects to what, but it is just something cool that gives it its own identity and fits Batman. You're really planning this stuff out beforehand. I thought it was real neat.
I thought it was kind of funny that like a Batman power is the ability to plan.
Yeah,
like they kind of frame
time.
it in the way that he can plan this out because of all of his technology. But if you think about it, like, oh wait, I can plan out something too. That's not. That's just how I do most things, actually.
Yeah, you know what? I could look in there and see there's a lamp above this man.
but gamifying it like that was really cool. I totally get where you're coming from there. That was a good moment.
Right, and here's the thing. If it were me up there, I'd probably just be like, fuck, I don't know what to do, and then I'd leave. I wouldn't think through. I wouldn't be like, okay, I could bash that guy's head into the table. I could use my batarang to knock that lamp down. I'd just be like, fuck, this is too much for... I'm
swinging. I'm going in, just swinging my arms in a windmill fashion.
I wouldn't get that. I wouldn't even get that far. I'd go home and play video games.
Yeah, I guess anytime I tried to answer the question, what would I do if I was Batman? I would go, man, I wouldn't fight.
Yeah, I'd probably like trip before even getting in.
I would complain about crime lazily to my friends. That's my approach to deal with it.
Yeah, someone should really do something about that.
Yeah, like a mayor.
Yeah, some sort of bat-themed vigilante or something.
If I was Batman, I would say the phrase, if I were the criminals, I wouldn't have done it.
You know what? I would have said, maybe it's not worth it, and then went home and got chips.
So my choice cut is to give the evidence to either Vicky Vale or Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, that one's the biggest one. That one's like, there are choices in the episode, but that's the only one that feels like super huge. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know, because there's a lot of like smaller ones that I thought were actually pretty good, and I had to think about like whether or not to back up Harvey Dent at your own expense. But yeah, I also agree. I picked this one as well.
Oh, by the way, there was one that I really liked at the very beginning of the episode at the party. Falcone comes in, extends his hand to shake it, and you have the option to either publicly shake Falcone's hand or not. And I went with it. I did shake his hand, but also I was thinking the whole time, like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. You know what? Maybe I'm changing my answer. That's my choice cut. That is more interesting than where to give the evidence to me.
Okay, it's a good pick. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking when I was talking about it. Because it does end up biting you in the ass later. That's on front page newspapers.
Yeah, and the evidence is the thing that, like, time slows down, and it's one of the very rare choices in the game that you don't have a timer counting down for. And it's played out just before the end of the episode in the same way that, like, Carly or Doug in Walking Dead, or they're not coming to mind right now, but we've seen this a lot, like big climactic, okay, make a really hard decision right now. Just recently, Asher or Roderick at the end of episode 5 of Game of Thrones. Yeah. That's like maybe a platonically ideal one, where you just need to choose who sacrifices themselves. Like, that's what this was for this episode, and I think that does bring down this episode 1 in comparison to other episode 1s, because, like, the same thing's happening as a result of it. Falcone's going down. It feels like a very low stakes thing to choose which one. Yeah, you know what? I talked myself all the way out of it. I don't even like it anymore.
I think you talked me out of it too, but, like, going into it, I was like, oh shit, I feel like this could have, like, pretty drastic consequences no matter what I go with. I guess it just doesn't, because either way you take down Falcone. But my thought was, if I give it to Vicky, that could clear the Wayne name. That would really benefit me just right away.
I think
that would be great.
We'll see that in future episodes. I think it will have implications. Serious ones even. But we're still, like, I don't think it's going to hurt my relationship with Vicky that much because I chose this, or, like, make my public image unsalvageable because I didn't give it to Vicky instead of Gordon. Like, I think I can make back those points.
Right. I mean, I was going into it thinking I was. I was going into it thinking there were going to be bigger consequences than there probably would be. So at the time, I felt strongly about it. But yeah, you talking me. I think I hate to just piggyback off you, but that is the more interesting choice, is shaking his hand. And I like that whole bit at the party where you kind of had to say, like, okay, what's best for Harvey Dent? The whole reason I'm doing this to get him elected. But this could look very bad. Like, they really make a point to be like, when he reaches his hand out, everyone at the party turns their head to watch.
And it's like in the recap by the newscasters in the end of the episode, to make sure, like, hey, you remember that. Even though I'm looking at my my choice page, it's not listed as one of the 5 that are listed here.
Yeah, but it does feel like a big choice.
Yeah, like who you give the evidence, whether or not you allow Harvey into the meeting with Falcone, is listed here, even though that felt a little smaller than the handshake.
Yeah, that's so weird, because the handshake feels like it has bigger consequences. Letting him in the room just feels like I should.
Yeah, the other big, like, time stop choice near the end of the episode was whether to just arrest or to brutalize Falcone. And that kind of felt the same way to me too. Like, it's just going to end up with him being arrested. I'm like, what that could do is just send messages about who Batman is to the rest of the city, I guess. But I'm still going to be in charge of that interaction when I get there. So it just felt smaller than normal, like, big, critical, dramatic choices have sometimes felt in certainly Game of Thrones, certainly Walking Dead, even Tales from the Borderlands, which is a little less choice driven than the other ones, I think. But
Yeah.
Still feels that way. So
Yeah,
this felt
no,
less choice driven, I guess. That's my takeaway. I didn't realize I thought that until now.
Yeah. I guess we'll see how it goes going forward, but I did think the stuff at the party was very interesting.
Yeah, I think the just like navigating high society as Bruce Wayne. I'm learning something about myself, which is that I would love a Telltale game that is just the like Bruce Wayne section of Batman or the Mira Forrester section of Game of Thrones, where you're just like, guys, let's just make some moves in Washington D.C. I think that would be a cool game. And I don't want to ever do a fight. I want no fights to happen, and the stakes are like very central to the characters I have. But it's if Kevin Spacey wasn't completely tarnished goods, maybe House of Cards would have been an interesting venue for that idea.
Right. I feel like I'm not quite as into it as you are.
Oh, I can tell, and that's totally fine.
I'd give it a chance because it would be part of the show, part of the podcast.
You would give it a chance because that is what you are signed up for.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything they did that skews toward that. I think Game of Thrones is probably the one of the entire library that skews toward that the most.
Right.
But even then, not so much. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like when the main dialogue or when the main gameplay interaction of these games is choosing dialogue options, I feel like I want to do more conversating puzzles where I can really mess stuff up or win based on what I say.
Right. Yeah.
And I think in a lot of these dialogue options are just kind of like, choose how you're going to outfit yourself on the way to a fight. You know?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, something I wanted to bring up that I totally forgot about.
Okay.
What? So in the fight scenes, speaking of which, what's with the little Batman logo in the corner of the screen that's filling up?
Okay, so good question. It reads like a super move meter in a fighting game, and I think it is leading to when you can do trigger plus A button on an Xbox controller, like the finishing move. You unlock that because if you miss the QTEs, I think it doesn't fill up and you don't get to do that finishing move.
Okay, interesting, because I never had a problem doing it, so I just assumed that's how it was just supposed to go.
You know, that may be it, but I think it's also just telling you it's coming up.
Just latching onto some sort of purpose for the Batman meter.
Yeah, there's a lot of gameplay things in these games that look like other gameplay things where, like, there's an element of possibility. So you could possibly do it or possibly fail. Like the money in Tales from the Borderlands. You could have enough money to unlock something very special at the end of the game, but for the most part, it doesn't really work like real money. It works like just like a you could have this or not kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think this super move meter is probably similar, where it doesn't really do the thing that it looks like it's doing.
It's just there for fun. Look, it's blue now.
It might. Oh, to me, it's red.
Ooh.
So think about that. That's what it's for.
to sometimes be blue and sometimes be red.
Yeah. Also, I noticed that in the main menu of the game, there's a button that says "See more from Telltale," and I pressed it, and then it said "The Wolf Among Us," and no other games.
Yeah. Well, what's weird about it is it says more games from Telltale and WB.
Yeah, because I think I remember. I might have. I think I do remember from when I played it. it did have Wolf Among Us, but it also had like Arkham Asylum, or not, well, Arkham City probably.
Interesting.
And other games like that. So there were other Telltale and WB games in there.
Okay, I getcha.
Yeah, I remember exactly when I played this because I was staying at my uncle's house for about a month and a half for my very last quarter of college because my lease ended just before college ended and I wasn't going to spend another year there. So I moved in with my uncle who lived close enough to the college, luckily. And during that time, that was August of 2016, which is the month this came out. So I was only able to play one episode, and I was like ready to play more episodes. And I think the second episode came out before I moved out of that, and I played that too. And then the reason I didn't finish this season, I think, is probably because I moved during it, so my life was upset. You know, when you move to a different place, you can't just keep doing the same thing.
Right.
Yeah, you can't finish a video game.
I'm done with that forever.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah, that's cool. I remember when I first played it too.
Yeah.
Today.
Mm-hmm. So that's been Batman the Telltale Series, Episode 1, Realm of Shadows. Realm of Shadows. I'm just now thinking about it. I almost never think about these names because we've done over 100 of them. That doesn't feel like the name of this episode, Realm of Shadows.
Well, I think we've noticed a few times that episode titles don't always correspond with what happens.
Yeah, sometimes it even feels like they get swapped between episodes, like they're on the wrong one.
Yeah. Remember the Game of Thrones episode called The Ice Dragon?
Yeah, but that at least referenced something in the episode a little bit of... You know, it turned out to be a constellation and not a real dragon, even though there are ice dragons in Game of Thrones.
Right.
Yeah. And then there's this, it's just the realm. Like, what's the realm? What are you talking about?
The Realm of Shadows is the underbelly of Gotham City.
But we're not even in the underbelly. Like,
look, just...
This is
You're asking dangerous questions.
This is an underbellyless episode.
That's true.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to accept it.
Well, thank you for joining me today, Dustin, and thank you, listener, for listening. We'll be back next week with Batman the Telltale Series, Episode 2. Have a great summer.
Yeah, season 1, Episode 2. Have a great summer.